Hello, and welcome back to the Educational Currency Podcast. I'm Chris Kaladiakis from Maximum Education.
And I'm Robert Namoski from the Coaching College and Ultimate Jiu-Jitsu. Welcome back, guys. And we have a pretty relevant topic now, one that reflects both on the senior students and the junior ones.
And obviously, a very hot topic on all student minds and all parent minds. It's about putting together appropriate study skills when approaching exams, trying to get ahead at school. What are the skills that young people can use, or older people at any point in your educational career, in order to really nail those study patterns? So we're going to approach that from a few different perspectives and obviously from our two different backgrounds, and try to give some tips that'll hopefully help you prepare for your upcoming examinations and study.
Oh, absolutely. Like a study tip has to go into a study plan and basically has to fit into your life plan as well. Your schedule for the week, whatever it may be, will include sections of that week studying. So moving on, what would you think would be the most relevant thing to study from your experience?
Look, you've already started on that good point of the schedule. If you are hoping that you're going to prepare yourself for examinations that are, whether they are in 2 weeks' time, 10 weeks' time, or you've got a year plan and you want to get ready for your half yearlies and end of yearlies, you need a schedule. And I think the key thing is, and we've mentioned it in podcasts before, the schedule must be manageable. It's got to be manageable, and it's not just pen and paper and in a book. We've got to put in a whole variety of other factors, which you know very well as a part of a study plan.
Oh, absolutely. With my work that I do in here in the centre, we draw up a study plan. We draw up a study plan for your life that week. So it's a question of, okay, what do you enjoy doing that week? Put it in, write it down. Training these days. What time do you go to training? What time do you finish training? You have a shower, you unwind. What time is that exactly? Especially moving on to the more senior years, will give you the times that you can allocate yourself for studying. Because once you've actually put in all your recreational activities, put in what you do realistically, you'll be surprised how much free time you have. And then you could slowly put in a study plan. Now, a study plan, I wouldn't say it's something, I've got an exam, so I'll start a study plan now. A study plan is day one, week one from school. So as soon as you begin, term one, you begin a study plan. And that study plan, you can then slowly build it up as necessary or bring it down as necessary. So my recommendation is we need to get a realistic schedule for you. Now, for everyone, a schedule is different. If you're inclined to study, you could see your schedule might be a bit too harsh. Is your study effective? If you're the type of person that's not quite the study type, you could put in small bursts of study.
And that's really got to marry with how well you know yourself. If you are suddenly now like, okay, I'm starting year 10 this year, I know that my marks are going to be counting towards what subjects could be potentially choosing year 11 and 12, how am I going to start? Well, you can't just start going, bang, 2 hours a night, I've got to be just like the top kid in class. It's not going to work for you because your body has to adjust to whatever study plan you're putting in place. So for you, even just to sit down for possibly 10 minutes of study on top of your homework, it's not, your homework does not classify as study, but 10 minutes on top of you just revising what you did at school today and reading, that's a starting point if that's where you're at, okay, with your place in school and what your ultimate goals are. But then, for those students who do have stronger study plans, yes, they are going to be doing more time, but they're built towards that, and it's now a part of their routine. And that's what we're trying to develop, good routines.
Oh, absolutely. And like you nailed it, year 10 is a critical year. You are spending that year to see, okay, what am I going to do in year 11 and 12? And we'll look at a topic as well for subject selections. But in year 10, if you're not inclined to study, you haven't put those processes in, you're moving into year 11 and 12 into, again, more academics, where we've seen that again, if you're mature enough and you're not inclined to study, you could look at going into a trade.
Yeah, and those trade pathways are fantastic. And obviously, that's another topic we'll be talking about in relation to subject selections as well. But even there, you've still got to prepare yourself for lots of hard work. Okay, it's a lot more practical work you'll be doing. You'll be ticking off competencies in the realm of vet and TAFE. All right, but once again, still a routine and patterns.
Absolutely. So let's say starting year 10, we're beginning into term 2 now. okay, put in that study plan. And once you've put that study plan in, of course, within that plan, homework's done first, and then any extra time you have within your plan, you create that extra study. So from your experience being a year coordinator, what would you say is the biggest distraction for students studying?
Look, and a lot of parents are probably already aware of this, but some may not be. Unfortunately, it's technology, okay? You have faith in your child, they're in their room, they are studying. And there are going to be two primary distractions in there. One will be their mobile phone, okay? If their mobile phone is in the bedroom, they're going to be messaging friends, they're going to be checking it every few minutes, okay? So that is one primary distraction. Mobile phone's an easy one to get rid of, okay? Get the mobile phone out of the room, switch it off, it's gone. The second one, which is a bit harder, is the laptop they're studying from. All right, because the laptop itself has the apps on it, has the chat on it, it has the websites on it and multiple tabs at the top. So even that itself is providing distractions there. But it's also their tool that most likely their notes are on. So that can sometimes be the challenge there, that the laptop, they need it. And I'll talk about it a bit later about leveraging digital literacy to support a study plan as well. But unfortunately, it can work against you, Rob, as well.
That sounds like they've got it harder than we had it.
It's information overload a bit as well. They've got so much that's a challenge, whereas we were pretty much there with our exercise book, our textbook, and we're writing notes. But they've got so much more available through technology and these platforms that even that in itself is a challenge, deciphering information and cross-referencing.
I was speaking about that with my class and they asked me, what is the difference when I went to school? And to think about it realistically, I don't think we had it that hard.
Yeah.
Being in year 10, in year 11, we did not have the distractions of a laptop, all these social media things that I can connect on and talk to my friends, etc. Again, we had the desk.
Yeah.
You had your books, you had your notes. If someone called you, the telephone rang.
Exactly. Mum would say, he's studying.
Mum would say, he's studying.
See it tomorrow.
Sometimes the cards really can be stacked against them.
Yeah.
So as parents, like you said, the advice is, to your best of ability, strip it away from them.
Yeah.
You can't let them make that mature choice because they're not mature.
Yeah.
They are kids. Even though they may be taller than you and wider than you.
and eat more than you.
Yeah. Their brain still hasn't developed till they're 25, 26 years old. And why give them those distractions? So maybe in their bedroom, there shouldn't be any electronic devices.
Yeah, and that can, obviously, anything that can distract them, if you can remove it, do it. I want to pose one back to you now, Rob.
Yeah.
Now, obviously there is the studying, the plan. Okay, great, we got it in place. What kinds of things would you recommend in the context of memory retention now? Students studying heaps, but it's not really sticking. What can they do to support memory retention in relation as a part of their study plan and reserving content in their minds?
A good way of memorizing something is after you've studied it, remove yourself away from it. And then recall, what do you actually know? And then you get a real realization of, okay, I've nailed this, this is kind of murky. Then go back and refill that information. It's when you actually remove yourself from the writing and calmly think, okay, what part of this information do I know and remember and can recite in my own brain? And that could give you a really good indication of what you've actually begun to store into your short-term, moving into your long-term memory.
Yeah.
So that could be a way. With the stems, it's a question of, okay, where are you getting stuck mechanically? First of all, you've got your theoretical understanding, say maths, physics, chemistry. Then you've got your mechanical understanding. Have your theoretical understanding down pat. That's what makes the subject interesting. And then just circle where you're stuck mechanically. And sometimes you cannot go past that point. Ask a teacher, we have tutors in the library where we work or someone else that's helping you externally.
External tutors are pretty good too, from what I've heard.
The coaching college. So ask someone to help you get over that hurdle and realize it is just a hurdle that's stopping you.
Yeah.
It's not the be all and end all.
Yeah. No, that's good. Damn right. Seek support where you can and obviously make your weaknesses your strength. And look, when you do get your study plan underway too, and I know we've spoken about this as well in reference to last week's podcast, sleep's an important part, isn't it, in our study routine?
Well, from our last podcast, this is why. Please remove electronic devices from your bedroom. So if you're studying at night, convert it over to pen and paper, as we talked about in the last podcast, and you can just go back and listen to it or research it yourself. If you are writing on your computer, on your laptop, I would recommend before you go to bed, a good 2-3 hours, write on pen and paper, scan it, put it in. So you can still have it in your laptop.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, essays, any sort of mechanical stuff, you can still use a pen and paper. You can scan it, put it back into your computer for the next day, and you can look over what you've done. So please, it's critical that after a certain point, say 6 p.m., if I had to pick, no electronic devices. Keep it all pen and paper. Keep the books on your table, read, write as much as you can, and then to put it back into your electronic device, it's a quick scan. We've got the technology for that. You could easily just put it through a machine and you'd have it in seconds.
Even the phones have OCR technology on it where you can highlight the text and then paste it into somewhere else. So the tech still can come in later and help you with that scan.
Exactly, because like we said before, technology is great, but it's a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, how can technology help studying?
Now,
what would you recommend?
There are a variety of great platforms out there. And look, even one of them that obviously I'm an advocate for and I'm on it is YouTube. Okay, if you don't understand something your teacher has explained in class, you can most likely find a YouTube video on it as well. But with that, you've got to make sure that it's specific to your syllabus. All right, because there's terminologies that could be different in different parts of the world and all that. So do make sure it is relevant. But here in Australia, we've got it pretty good too. Then there's the online platforms as well.
There's a good one, Maximum Education.
That's fantastic, Maximum Education. Fantastic videos there. But that's right. You know, there are a lot of dedicated platforms to it. That's obviously in the realm of computing technology. Atomi have a vast majority through a number of subject areas. Maths Online has been great right from kindergarten to year 12. So those resources are out there. One that was interesting, one of my students put me onto too, is the one that uses flashcards. Apparently there's platforms now you can use. They bring concepts on screen in a visual manner. And just so when you're studying on your own, you're not necessarily ready for what you might be asked of. Okay, and then you've got to respond to the flashcard. And he really found that one interesting. So that one in itself is fantastic. And then the last one I'll point out is, and this one still is kind of linking to a traditional method, is Board of Studies and actually going on to NESA as well and getting those past papers. Look at those HSC past papers. There's databases of them backed up and you can review them there. But one of the key ones that helps out is there's a multiple choice randomized generator. So you can say, I want to do 20 questions and it will pull 20 questions from the past year's papers. And you can do a different version of the 20 questions each time to really test yourself on those concepts there.
Yeah, especially in preparation for the HSC. I reckon that's really good after the trial.
Yeah.
You finish your trial, you've got 6-7 weeks to your HSC, where the trial is your first exam, where you'll actually sit close to 3 hours nearly every subject, and heavily based nearly the whole content from year 11. So now for the year 12s doing the HSC, this becomes a critical time of your study.
Yeah, it does.
And we've got about 14 weeks from the date of this podcast to actually get yourself ready. So by the time we do release this podcast, it may be a bit earlier than that, but still there reaches a critical point for HSC kids where, okay, now you have to have had a study plan. It does not work otherwise. I've seen too many students, how'd you go on Saturday? I studied economics. Wait, what do you mean you studied? All day you studied economics? Yeah. All day I studied economics. You may have sat in your room all day. You may have walked to and from the fridge all day, to and from the toilet all day, open and close the fridge. I remember my dad losing his mind going, there's nothing left in the fridge from you opening and closing it. But when you think I've studied all day, how much have you actually studied?
Yeah.
This is where you're moving into the world of becoming a young adult. You need to self-monitor and then self-criticize to actually get those improvements, especially for our more academic students. On the other hand, we've got to address other things that may be stopping you studying. How's your anxiety levels?
Yeah.
That could be, from your experience, how have you seen an increase, decrease as a teacher?
Obviously, in the context of year 12, anxiety is on the rise for all the students. They've got a lot riding over where they want to be next year, even though we try to reassure them that there's multiple pathways to get to where you want to be. And, the HSCs and everything, that ATAR markers and everything, there's always other ways to get to where you want to be. Naturally, they're going to want the most direct way. And, they are going to be anxious about it. With that, obviously, we monitor them, we talk to them as teachers in order to get them through them. School counselling is a fantastic support in relation to managing anxiety too. We are teachers, but unfortunately, we're not experts in that realm. And so students and schools need to work with students to really get them to understand the importance of school counselling and remove any stigma around counselling too. That it is a great support and it is just a normal thing for a student in school to feel they need counselling if they are getting anxious about it. And then the final intricate piece of that part as well is the parents. Talk to your students, monitor them yourself as well. See how they're going. And if you're concerned, get in contact. Contact the school. They might set up a referral then for the school counsellor. Work together because ultimately we're all teams, aren't we?
Absolutely. And we want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
So if anxiety is a severe issue and you feel it is stopping you in your tracks from studying, absolutely. You have to get outside help. There's no way around it. Even as a professional, you will get the marks, you will get a certain ATA, and you move on into your professional field. The higher up you go through your profession, there's more of a likely chance that you will see a psychologist to actually clear your brain and give you that mental resilience that you need to make better decisions that in these professions can affect the whole company and everyone's employment status. I mean, just now we recently had our ex-Prime Minister come out that he suffered severe depression while he was going through all the challenges of COVID and bushfires.
Really narrowed it down who that might be.
We can't use names. But good on him, actually. He did get our country through that. Whether you criticise him or not, he was the leader, and we're in a great position, Australia now, through the policies he made, good and bad. So someone at that level had to get help. He's making these decisions. So be inclined to slowly start doing that if you need it. If you don't need it and you feel, well, it's just a little bit anxiety, I'd recommend go for a walk, clear your head. Grab your dog, or if you haven't got a pet, just clear your head. Go for a nice brisk walk, good half an hour, come back, resettle yourself, and off you go.
And jumping back to what we were at the beginning, that can be then a part of your study schedule, that you know that you get too tense and after an hour of study, I go for a half-hour walk and kind of reset myself. Also links to that retention factor too that you mentioned. Take yourself away, let things process for a bit and marinate. So that's actually great advice there. What I want to jump to you now, Rob, and I know you do great work with this at the coaching college too. And I say it to my year 12s as well. Essentially, when you're a part of the same group at a school, you're a team.
That's right.
Teamwork is a part of study. Work with peers, you're not alone. And even in managing anxiety too, talk with those who are in the same situation as you. But in that context of teamwork, what are some of the strategies you use, Rob?
Well, with my high-end maths classes, I treat them as a team. There's no individual here who will beat who and what the rank is. No, we are a team and we're taking on the state. Now let's go. So if one person has a little bit more information than someone else, pass it on, teach it to the person next to you. Becomes very important. That person next to you gets a better understanding and you yourself get a deeper understanding of it. I have strategies where on the board we throw questions up and in teams I get them to answer it. So some of those kids are going to be scientists. You're not going to solve things on your own. You're going to be working with teams each and every time through your whole life. And then collectively, our knowledge increases and our marks increase. So we remove that competitiveness amongst each other, turn it into a team environment, and then watch the whole team thrive. As soon as it gets too competitive between each other, you can get that feeling when they're each trying to cut each other down. And then that becomes super detrimental, where even the top kid wouldn't get of a high enough mark as he would have if he worked collaboratively together as a team. So my strategy is, okay, it is a competitive environment, but we're taking on the state. So as we're taking on the state, we all need to improve together, and well, let's get it done.
Yeah, it's a bit of nature nurture, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You need to set up that environment around you, and you will rise to whatever standard is set by your peers. So, and teamwork is the key to everyone raising that. So you're 100% right that, yeah, you've got to be working with each other. And while you can have friendly competition, yeah, of course, yeah, you got the best mark, good on you. You're still supporting each other and really trying to raise each other there in the way you can go ahead there. So last thing I'll also ask you too, because you are also an Extension 2 teacher, which is obviously one of the hardest subjects in the school. Okay, how can you maintain motivation in an area like this where the context is challenging, you're learning things all the times that are going to be difficult? What are some tips there to continue to get yourself motivated in these areas?
I'd stick to an hour and a half of study and then give yourself a certain break. If you feel your brain is wandering off, it's not as clear as you started, it's time for a rest. That could be 45 minutes for you. That could be 50 minutes for you. That could be an hour and a half for you. There's a reason why movies are an hour and a half to 2 hours long. And after, your brain just naturally wanders off. So after that, do the tips of going for a walk, do something that doesn't require any mental cognition, come back, restart it again. In terms of the harder subjects, get to the interesting part for the theoretical part. This is why you pick these harder subjects. It's not a question of being able to answer every question in a textbook and at the end of it, I can do this now, because most of these students did that year 7 to 10. That's why they're in these hard level maths, because they answered every question in the textbook, got it all correct, did the study skills at the test, and grabbed these 98, 95% marks. But as soon as you're picking these very difficult subjects, you have to have that interest in there for the subject, and that interest then pushes you to further your knowledge, not so much your mark. Could be a good mark, could be a bad mark. You could have misread the question and not got enough marks as your ability is. But at the end of the day, it's your pursuit of knowledge that you are there to gain as you pick these hard academic subjects. And then that will follow you into university and life as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it does support, once again, routines. And it's funny, the more we talk about things on this podcast, it's not just school strategies we're giving out. A lot of these stuff is
life
applicable
strategies
all through life there.
Yeah, I think the most difficult study, I always put study plans in for my students. And I think the most difficult one was a competitive swimmer who wanted to be selected for the Commonwealth Games.
Oh, wow.
And we were up to 12 or 14 sessions, 4 a.m. in the swimming pool and then afternoon. And this person still managed to put their study times in. And actually they were so disciplined because of that sporting, that extreme sporting activity, where they would actually, yes, now I finish, shower, I put my hour and a half in, 2 hours in, then I go to bed. So like we said at the beginning, the schedule is the key. I've had students in the past where put down what you enjoy. And it was a male student. We watched Desperate Housewives with my whole family. Put it in your timetable. He goes, what, you serious? Put down Desperate Housewives in your timetable. Never watched that show. Nothing against it. But man, we put down Desperate Housewives in your timetable. I really enjoy gaming. Do it earlier. Do it on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Put down gaming. 12 to 3, you're going to game. Okay, how's your gaming? And I usually ask him, how's your gaming going? He goes, what'd you ask? It's in your timetable.
Yeah.
Did you do it effectively? Etc., etc.
Yeah.
So put down a timetable for your life, and then as you can, stick to it. Now, the goal is stick to it as you can. It doesn't define you. You could be sick on Monday, write it off. You could have been lazy on Tuesday, okay, it's written off. Do not try and make up for it as you miss it. Whatever's happening on Wednesday, happens on Wednesday. And a second thing I would highly recommend, if your environment stops you from studying, there's a lot of distractions, change your environment. Stay at school another 2 hours. We have tutors at the school that can actually help you. Go to the library, come back from the library, get your parents to pick you up at whatever dinner time is for you.
Local libraries are amazing. Yeah,
absolutely. So once you've got your schedule down pat, find an environment where you have a higher success rate with that schedule. And from my experiences, that's how we've managed to actually get good success in those timetables. Because if it's not happening and the student's realistic, okay, where are you studying? Can we change the environment where you're studying to actually give us a higher rate of success?
Yeah, and a great point too, in that you got to reward yourself and put it into your study plan there too. And if it does go out of whack, don't take away those rewards. Stick to the plan, because that's what keeps you going, especially in those highly challenging subjects. Look, before we wrap up too, I wanted to go through just some of my tips that I give my students as they approach the HSC. And if there is one, it's not even related to study, but sometimes students have to know this. Listen in class. Some students know that they're just going to go home and study this. Okay, there's the content. I'm just going to write it down. But are they actually listening to their teacher and listening to the instructions that are being given out? So if I can stress one thing, utilize that time, because class time is so important. When you're being taught, because you may understand it at that time, but you may not understand it at that time, what you're getting down, what you're reading over, and you've either got your teacher there to hear their explanation, but also the ability to question your teacher too.
I'd go one better, especially those of you who are seriously academic. Read a little bit of the information before the teacher does it in class.
Yeah, reading ahead.
Read a little bit ahead. Yeah. The more information you process in class, the less study will be required for you to gain that knowledge, which opens up more study for other things. So it's actually critical.
Yeah.
That's in terms of a study plan. Yes, we've got the plan in. Now, in terms of you gaining your knowledge, I'd say that would be the number one thing.
Yeah.
You have to listen in class. The more you understand it in class, the easier your study becomes.
Yeah. And with reading ahead, like you just said, you're familiarising yourself with the literacy before you're introduced to it. You know that word already exists. You've got a bit of an understanding of what it is, and then you're going to learn more about it. So, it kind of just gives you that little bit of head start, doesn't it?
I found that out at university. I mean, primary school to high school is a big jump. High school to university, hang on.
There's a lot of interesting things at uni.
But reading ahead at uni, especially doing the STEMs, made the world of difference.
Yeah.
World of difference.
Okay.
What are your other tips?
Look, the other thing as well is obviously how you assess yourself along the way. All right. So like we said, whether you're starting a study plan or in your journey towards the HSC, how are you assessing yourself? Because you can't just jump straight in the deep end. Here's a past paper. I'm going to attempt that hardest question in that paper. I find it's more rewarding to start yourself off in a bit of a 3-tier model. Starting basic, where you're kind of looking at lots of multiple choice, okay? Because multiple choice is easy to mark, easy to answer, all right? And it's also very terminology driven. So it marries very well with the notes you've been taking at class. You can see kind of not just what the actual answer is, but what may be familiar terms the distractors are using, and do I know what they are as well? All right, and also can put into your head, if you're operating like a mind map, which is another fantastic tool there, what units of work are those terminologies linking to? So that's a good basic way to start. Then, if we're going to move on to our next level, we want to look at short answer style questions and really building connections between terminology. All right, so our compares, our contrasts, our describes, we can actually put into words the actual course information. They say something, I can write down what that means, right? And I believe that's the second layer, that you can actually put it into words and have it down, and you're able to comprehend kind of what's going on. The final stage, if you are targeting band 6, is that justification, those discuss and recommendations. It's a lot of scenario-based types of questions, where they are, in my subject area, the highest ones are 6 markers, all right, and or there could be in my vet subject 15 markers, but you're actually able to apply the terminology of a course, because scenario-based questions mightn't directly ask you for specific terminology from the syllabus. They're going to want you to put the terminology into your responses, and that's what you gradually want to be building up to with this kind of 3-tier model. All right, get your terminology down pat, be able to define that terminology and compare and contrast, but then ultimately scenario-based context, put the syllabus concepts. And I can't stress that enough. You've got to know your syllabus. What are the words in the syllabus? Because HSC markers, when they look through and they're trying to find marks, Those are the marks. Yes, this student understands that. When they see your number, they don't know you from a bar of soap. They're not your school teacher. All it is, you're a number on a page that hopefully has good handwriting. Another tip, okay? That is what's going to get you the marks. It magnifies their eyes to the marks on your page. And this is jumping back to actually something you said earlier, which is another must as you're approaching the HSC, writing as a part of your study, because at this point, it is changing in some subjects next year. The HSC is still a written examination. So your writing has to be good and legible, but also you've got to be able to get as much information as you can down onto your document, your writing booklets, within that 2.5 hours, 3.5 hour period. And you've got to train your hand for that, because it's intense and you're going to be doing it over a 4-week block. Sometimes you might have up to 4 or 5 exams in 1 week.
Your trial will be the first indicator of that.
Yeah.
And we could go back to what we said at the beginning, what we recommended. Take away the electronic devices at night.
Yeah.
Practice your handwriting.
Yeah, handwriting is still key.
Yeah, still key.
Yeah. So look, work on your handwriting, and ultimately what I'm saying, practice papers, build up as best you can. Final thing I'll say too, teachers and supporting students, you take advantage of these online platforms. Okay. What tools are there that you can build multiple choice questions? One of the easiest ones to build multiple choice questions, Google Forms. Google Forms have marking capabilities where it will actually tally up the marks for you. You can even do terminology-based questions too. Self-marking student does it, they get marks straight away. So Google Forms, a nice basic one. And then the other tool that's already in classrooms too, Google Classroom. You can actually post your work, send it out as an assignment, and when they return the actual work, there's a little pencil button in the corner, and you can actually annotate it with a stylus. Okay, I've got my Apple Pencil here, but it doesn't have to be an Apple Pencil. Okay, you can actually write on the student's work and give them feedback. This feedback does wonders for them.
Yeah,
okay?
Absolutely. Feedback is king.
Yeah, feedback is king. It's the only way to get better.
But as well, there's no pass or fail in study.
No.
There's just, can you take that next step forward and just do it slightly better than you did it the week before? This is the only measure of your study. Don't think, I'm failing, I'm not studying enough. No, just take that step forward and just do a little bit more than you did the week before. If you feel, okay, you are doing a lot, okay, like Chris said before, what can you do better in class? What can you prepare better for your lesson in class? So bringing all this together like a fine-tuned machine would get you those top-end marks.
That's it, eh? And if you're unsure, seek support. Your teachers, your parents, other methods in school there.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you again, guys. And this was a great topic, especially on the study tips. And we'll move on to other topics as we look at selecting subjects for your HSC, selecting courses at university. So this is upcoming topics that we will discuss. But for now, I'm Robert Namoski.
I'm Chris Kaladikis.
Thank you again.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
See you next time.